Okay, this is Jimmy Jive. You're listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today, my guest is an old friend of mine from back in the day. My band opened up for his band a number of times back mid to late 80s and always had a great time. Really hop and catchy band with a lot of killer tunes, funny stuff, tongue-in-cheek, just stuff you wouldn't want to miss. They were just one of the most entertaining bands I've ever seen in my life. And that's not just to say that because I know my guest. Literally, it was so entertaining to play with these guys. Anyway, my guest today is lead guitarist, lead vocalist, producer, songwriter, pretty much the main just the band, Mr. Ray Kozora. Ray, how you doing today?
Fabulous.
That's great. All right, now tell me, I know I've lost a lot of my memory. Where did you originally come from? Where did you grow up?
Well, Dearborn Heights, near Joy Road and Telegraph. I was in that neighborhood. Then I got my first real six string in the summer of '69, and went in my basement for 6 months and didn't come out. And then we started a band at the beginning of my freshman year in high school. It was me and two guys from Fordson, and it was called Prison Necessity. And we had that band for 4 years. We did a lot of gigs, even though we were 12 and 13 years old back then. And we did a lot of hall parties, dances, school dances. It was an interesting band because the first time we got together, we had about a half an hour practice, and then we went out and did an hour and a half gig the next days later, and it came out fine. And these guys just had an amazing ability to improvise. Mm-hmm. So we'd start with the song the way it started, and then we'd take off and just go 20 minutes.
Right.
And it all worked, and we could change time signatures and tempos, and for some reason everyone was so heads up that it worked. It sounded like we knew what we were doing. I thought this was like what it was like whenever people jammed. Well, turns out that was the only time that ever got.
Was that all cover songs then, or was that?
It's the songs would start out as covers, but then they would go into improvisations.
Oh, improv jams with them.
Yeah, and so this was through high school.
And what was that band called again?
It was called Prison Necessity. Rick Stratansky was the bass player and Tom Mankiewicz was the drummer. Then he was also my drummer later in Topaz for many years. And that was a classic rock cover band in the era when the drinking age was 18, and we would play 5, 6, or 7 nights a week for years, about 4 or 5 years at a time on end. And then when the drinking age went back up to 21, that was the end of that scene.
Right.
So Topaz, we switched and started doing originals, and it was like a 3-piece power trio, very much like Rush. We were kind of a prog rock.
Right.
Did that for about a year, and then when that fizzled out, that's when Crime Control started.
What year would that have been?
1980 through maybe 83 was when Topaz was an original band. When it was a cover band, it was 78, 82.
And what year did Crime Control come into fruition?
Right around 83.
83?
We kind of got together.
And was that still in the Dearborn Heights area?
I was living in Detroit by then. I had a house up by Evergreen in Plymouth.
Brightmoor?
Mm-hmm.
You lived there for quite a while. That was where you had your studio going for the longest time, right?
Yeah, that's where it started.
That's where it started. And who were the original members of Crime Control?
It was Robin Kerr, the drummer. Cliff Laskowski played flute, harmonica, and keyboards. My brother Dave Kozora played the bass. And then we had 3 girl singers, the modern girls.
Right.
Were Lisa, my wife, Mary, my sister, and Jody. And the 3 of them dressed up in uniforms with fishnet stockings.
Yeah.
And they had total dance routines and harmonies, and it was just a spectacular.
Yeah, it was.
What they did for the band was incredible. They put on a heck of a good show.
Now, how did you come up, or what was there a concept behind calling the band Crime Control? Was anything significance to that? Just a catchy
said
name?
It one day, and we said, that's fine, whatever, we just need a name. So the name is what you make of it. You know?
Right. But I'm just saying, when you're saying the girls all dressed up like...
Well, they did that because of the name.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I didn't know if the other thing came first or if that...
No, they thought that would be neat. So they had little mini skirts, fishnet stocking.
Yeah, I remember that.
Handcuffs and batons. It's quite the show.
And where would you guys have been playing in those days? And were you doing a lot of originals or any originals at that point?
We did all originals.
Okay.
That's all we did was, when we started, was originals. And we'd play like at reruns and the Hamtramck Pub, any place that let you do all originals. There was a whole circuit back then,
right?
As you recall, where they'd usually have 3 bands a night, and you'd go in there and, you'd get whoever people came to the door and said they were there to see you, that's what you'd get paid.
Right. Do you remember where the first Crime Control gig was? I mean, the first time I saw you in a bar scenario was at reruns. Do you remember?
Yeah, it might have been reruns. Might have been the first place played. I'm not sure, but we played a lot back then.
Yeah, I know. I know you guys played everywhere.
3 or 4 times a month.
Yeah.
A couple of years in the beginning.
And that was considered a lot, too.
Back then when it was, once at the time it was...
Yeah, especially because, like you said, even though there were more clubs, they were limited amount of clubs.
They only did Friday and Saturday nights.
They only did Fridays and Saturdays, plus there were a limited amount of clubs that really... I shouldn't say the word allowed you to do original material, all original material, but encouraged it. And I remember Reruns was one of them, Paychecks, Hamtramck Pub, and all those other places. Now, when did you do the first recording, which I believe, like you were talking earlier, would have been the Curling Song and Black Widow? How old are those songs?
It's around maybe 84.
84?
84, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm not sure.
And you did that obviously at your studio.
No, actually, we did that at John Abadesian's.
Really?
Yeah.
In his basement? Basement studio?
Yeah.
Is that because you didn't have yours up and running yet?
That's correct. I was just kind of starting mine, and I was doing a few. My studio, I specialized. It was called Incidental Sounds. I specialized in recording singer-songwriters that didn't have a band.
Right.
And they would come in with their lyrics, maybe their melody, and if they played, they might play one instrument, or they might not play any. And I'd play everything and mix it, make it sound like it ought to be on the radio. And I did that, all for the last 45, 50 years, whatever it's been.
Yeah, you were on the cutting edge, I remember, of the time, at least locally that I knew of, that was doing it the way you were doing it. You weren't doing, I know you would have started out with tape, obviously, but you were really getting into more the digital type of sound.
Sequencing.
Yeah, the sequencing. And I kind of heard this a little bit from other people that had studios. It was very common and important for the guy who owned the studio to be multi-instrumental, because you're going to make more money, or possibly more money, with individuals coming in, like you said.
Well, like I say, most studios had bands come.
Right.
I've almost never had bands come. I did a couple of times. People just, they were, sometimes it would be someone that did a solo album, and then they later got in a band and they wanted it recorded. I said, I don't really do bands. They say, yeah, but we want you to do it anyway, so can we come in? Okay. So I did a few bands, but, out of 1,000 or so albums I did, most of the solo artists, singer-songwriters.
And you were pretty much writing, or if not co-writing, most of the material for these.
Arranging, yeah.
Now,
I did even background vocals on a lot.
Right, like I said, all the instruments. Like I say, I remember being at that house and your little studio down there. You had a little area there because you had parties there and what. But was the reason you didn't want to do bands, was it more of a hassle to do them, or you just didn't feel you had the room?
I liked composing and playing and helping. I loved what I did.
Right.
It was more fun. Bring in a band and they've got their stuff. You don't get to make up, you don't get to write and compose and play. You're just recording a band, so that had very little interest for me.
And would you not make as much money that way either because of the time?
I'm sure you could. Probably make the same,
Okay, when you moved the studio here, and you obviously had a lot larger area, much bigger basement, you've got a whole big soundproof down there. Had you changed any of that? Were you doing anything as far as bands then, or were you still pretty much trying to do the same?
I'm doing singer-songwriters. I would record our band, Crime Control.
Right.
I do our albums, but other than that, I rarely did whole bands.
Even though you had the room to do it?
I could do it, sure.
Yeah. It was just more of a hassle. It wasn't as much fun for you, though.
Oh, no, who wants to do that?
That's what I'm saying.
That just didn't seem like fun.
That's what I'm saying. So a big part of it was because you like to put your input into it as far as writing and performing and all that too, and that's more interesting. You start doing it. Like I said, I knew you'd been doing it for the longest time. How long has it been that you said you become semi-retired now?
Maybe a couple of years.
I
ran an ad in Metro Times that was in there every week for, probably 40 years.
Yeah.
And finally, just 2 years ago, I just stopped doing it. And, I've got a few people who come in that were old customers that'll still come in and do things.
Are you writing material as far as that? I know you said that Crime Control just put out a new album, so and that was something you've been working on for quite a while, or are you still pretty much...
We've been working on that one for longer than all the other ones, just because, about 5 years ago, my wife passed away, and I don't know, it took me a long time to get, they finally got on my case and said, hey, we got to record this stuff, we've been doing it for too long. So we finally recorded the new album, but that's the longest it ever took us to record it.
I know.
We've been writing it for about 4 or 5 years, and then we just recorded it in, about 3 months ago.
Yeah, because I know back in the day how you were putting something out almost every year, which was, for a lot of bands, that wasn't as common as some people think, but I guess you having your own studio. Now, between the time that you moved from Detroit to here, how many Crime Patrol albums did you record over there, or were there any that you did over there?
No, I think they're all here.
They were all here. And how long have you been here now at this location?
1991.
Okay, that's right. I was thinking it was that long.
So what was that, 33 years?
Yeah. So nothing was recorded in that studio of Crime Patrol.
It might have been the first album. We might have done it. Actually, the first whole album might have been done at Abadesian's. I'm not positive anymore.
I get you. I get you. And because I recorded at Abadesian, and it was been right around that time. The thing about that was he didn't seem to have any more room than you would have had in your basement there. Was it mostly because he was up the equipment or how to record at that time, more so than you were, that you would have used him?
Well, he was interested in recording live bands, and I wasn't. That's,
okay.
That's how we did it there, and then finally, when we moved here, that was just too far to go anymore, so we just did them here.
Right. Well, yeah, you're not going to go do them there when you're here. Plus, you've got, because like I said, you were always at the cutting edge of state of the art, moving up into new things, synchronizing, digital track, playing bass lines on keyboards or whatever, or on the typical instrument. Who are some of the artists that you would have recorded here? I know you did a lot, and you did rap groups and rap artists. Who would you say were some of the bigger name ones, or that you can recall over the years?
I'm horrible with names.
Or that may have spent the most time here. Because you were doing quite a few rap artists for a while, weren't you?
I did a few over the years, yeah. There was one guy named Stormin Norman, the Geek MC, and he was like a skinny white kid that wore a lab coat and a pocket protector, and he would go down and do these rap offs in Detroit, and he'd get his ass because people loved him and he'd win. Rappers would want to kill him. He actually has been injured several times this way, and he was on the Gong Show once too with
really
songs we did. And in fact, one of his albums was the Metro Times Music Awards for Rap Album of the Year, and he was up against Kid Rock and who's the
Eminem?
Insane Clown Posse.
Oh, ICP.
Yeah, and ICP, and all four of them were up that year for the award.
And he beat him?
I don't remember. I think he might have.
That's awesome. Now, when you do these artists and all that, were they actually putting this stuff out? In other words, on hard copy CDs in those days still?
Mm-hmm.
Now, other than production and recording credits, were you also getting any songwriting credits on that? Were you working on the songs with them as far as that?
A lot of times, yeah, usually.
And they'd give you credit for that? Mm-hmm. I knew some people that had studios and stuff. Part of the deal was that, we'll pay you your fee, we'll do this, and we may even list you as a producer, but we can't list you as far as songwriting and all that because of publishing issues down the line, especially if they were going to be picked up. Were there ever any issues with that kind of stuff with any of these guys?
No, what I did was I had two rate structures. One was work made for hire, which is everything that I did was they pay twice as much, as the flat fee.
Right.
And I would sign a work made for hire agreement, which just meant everything I did was they hired me to do it, and I had no interest in the ones that normal rate, split copyrights free.
Okay.
And, we made up a percentage of what it was that I did relative.
So that worked out. Let's get back into Crime Control a little bit. You had mentioned some of the bars you guys had played, like Reruns, Hamtramck Pub. Did you guys frequent any of the other West Side type clubs, like the Token
we played
Studio?
We played the Token. Played all the clubs that.
Did Crime Control ever doing mostly originals? From what I remember, you guys were doing covers. I know you concentrated on a lot of originals.
It was a very short time. What we did was we got a gig as a house band. I forget the name, and I'm the wrong guy for remembering names. I'm horrible at this. I wish the rest of the band was here. They'd remember everything. I always joke about in Topaz. Tom could tell you who the bartender and the waitress was.
Right.
At every bar, and the name of it, and what the address was.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I get you. That's fine.
What were we talking about?
You said the Crime Control were a house band.
For a short time, for about 6 months, we got this gig on some bar on 8 Mile near Telegraph, east of Telegraph on the south side of the street. And of course, you got to play 4 sets. So we had to add some material, so we made a decision to only add music from Michigan rock artists. So we did half covers and half originals, and the covers were, the Frost and Amboy Dukes and Bob Seger, anything that was,
Yeah, because that was what I remember. That was the only, other than, like I said, I know you were a big, you're right, Heap fan, and I remember you doing a Heap song here and there. Other than that, it was all Michigan-based.
Crime Control ever. I mean, I did it back in First Necessity and Topaz, but I don't remember ever doing a Crime Control song. You're a Heap song, Crime Control.
I could have sworn you did Easy Living or Stealing, one of those songs. I might be mistaken. I don't know. I could have sworn.
You saw Topaz before, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, you saw the songs in Topaz. We did the line Uriah Heep. You could be blending that, because I don't think we ever did any Uriah Heep Crime Control.
I guess it wouldn't make sense that you did, since, like you just said, you were doing all Michigan-based stuff, unless Uriah Heep at one time, based themselves out of Michigan.
No.
There was a band that your brother played in, phenomenal prog rock band. What was the band I'm thinking of?
Well, I'll tell you in a second when I try not to think of it. Stratus.
Now, did you record them, or did they go?
I recorded them live. A microphone that I invented.
You invented a microphone?
Yeah, by taking. I'll show it to you later. But I called it the RAS, and I recorded them live with that microphone to Dad, and it came out so amazing that when you put on headphones, you'd swore you were live at this concert. You were outdoors. It came out amazing. Recorded my little portable DAT machine with this microphone.
But was that done here? Was that done in a club?
No, it was outdoors, an outdoor concert. They played the Bike-a-thon in Ann Arbor. You know, big stage outdoors.
Yeah, I get that.
I was in the audience and recorded it live.
That must have been tricky, though. I mean, it's one thing to do a live room recording, but an outdoor festival type thing?
It came out really good. It's amazing.
I'm pretty sure I remember listening to it. I think there was one of the guys in the band, it may have been the drummer, had another group or did another group or something that did do a studio recording. Of course, I can't think of that band either. Now, I'm sure you're not. Or maybe you will. I don't know.
Well, his name was Jay.
Yeah, Jay.
Jay Fiandella. He was in a couple of bands, The Ride. Sure, they were called right after Stratus. But Stratus, amazing.
I know they were. I remember seeing them at a club in Dearborn. I think it was off Evergreen or whatever. It's not there anymore. That was known more for blues artists. But it had such an amazing acoustic sound to it that they sounded incredible there. And who was the guitar player that was in that band? Do you remember?
Dave Cavella. Who was the same guy that was in Topaz.
So you weren't playing guitar in Topaz, or you have two guitars?
I played bass in Topaz.
I thought you were the bass player in that band.
And Topaz, if we had a reunion, we needed a big hall to get everyone that was up there. The band was around for like 7-8 years, and we had about 40 members over the years. One of the guitarists was Dave Cavella, and then he was also in Stratus.
How many drummers? I always like to ask that. Bands seem to go through drummers like.
No, Topaz was just Tom and Kevich always.
If you're saying that many members, it was all different guitar players?
Yeah, guitarists. Yeah.
Well, that had to make it. Now, did that band ever record? Did you ever record with that band?
Once the drinking age went up to 21 and you could only do originals anymore if you wanted to play out, we did that for a couple of years. We made an album with me and Dave Cavella and Tom Mankiewicz. You know, a 3-piece power trio. Like I say, I also played some bass pedals and keyboards, kind of like the way Rush does it.
Yeah.
You know, we do gigs. We played at the studio and stuff like that, studio lounge, token, and did originals, prog originals.
Yeah, I knew it was prog. Now, you say you recorded that some of that stuff was recorded as far as an album? Do you still have any of that anymore?
I do.
Was it then recorded at that time on the vinyl or cassette?
Just cassette. Actually, I wouldn't even say we totally released. A few years later, I burned a few CDs and printed the cover up.
No, I get you that.
But yeah, I've got that.
But they didn't do anything with vinyl? Because vinyl would have been, as far as well, you wouldn't have been a singles type band.
By this time, vinyl was done, really.
In the mid-'80s?
Yeah, CDs, believe it or not, were out by then.
Yeah, but not in the big...
Yeah, there were record stores that had more CDs than vinyl by then. Vinyl was on its way out by the mid-'80s.
My mind foggy then. Yeah. Like I say, I worked at Harmony House for so many years, and when they first came out, obviously CDs were so expensive. They were like $30, $40, and they all came in the long box. And it wasn't until the early 90s that I remember them really taking off. But if you're saying the 80s, well, see, your memory's better than mine on that, and I worked in the record. So you played at Topaz. You played with, what was the other band's name before Topaz again? What were they called?
I was in Prison Necessity.
Prison Necessity, yes.
And for 2 years after that, I was in a band called Sun. It was all the guys were from Taylor. That's the first band I played bass in. I played guitar in Prison Necessity, and I played bass in Sun, and then Topaz, and then back to guitar for Crime.
Now, what was the reason for going to bass then? Was it because the other guitarists?
Well, I met these really 3 nice guys that were just hysterical, really funny guys, and they came to a party at my house. We were laughing and having a good time, and they said, yeah, we got a band, we need a bass player. I go, well, I play guitar, but I'll get a bass. So I just grabbed one and started with that band. They're called Sun.
Yeah, well, you were always, to this day, are being a multi-instrumentalist. Which instrument are you strongest on, in your opinion?
Don't know.
Don't know?
Yeah, I like them all.
I know you like them all, but if you had to pick one that you enjoyed playing the most, would it be guitar, probably?
I don't. Well, guitar and bass and drums and keyboards. I like everything. I really do. Probably, because Topaz was on the road playing 7 nights a week for so long, I had the most stage experience with bass. So it's probably, people think of me more as a good bass player and an okay guitarist.
Well, I always thought you were a really good guitarist, but I mean, a big part of that was everything you played as far as Crime Control, as far as your original, and even the covers that you did, your style lent itself so well to it. It fit in, whether it was your soloing or your rhythm playing, it all fit. It fit really tight.
I really like the Michigan guitarists.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the people I really admired was Dick Wagner and Mark Farner and Ted Nugent. I mean, those are the people that I thought, I want to play like them. And so when we started doing originals, of course, that had an effect on me.
Are you a Ted Nugent fan, though? Is he one of the guitar players that really... Because I never really heard much of that in your playing. The other guys you mentioned, definitely. But you never seemed quite as, in Ted's words, bombastic as far as your playing. You never seemed to play over the top.
Well, have you listened to the Amboy Dukes records?
Oh, yeah,
That's
of course.
yeah.
Okay, so you're talking about the earlier style. Oh, okay, well that would make more sense than Cat Scratch Fever.
That stuff really was.
But when you mentioned these guitarists that, you really dug into, so to speak. Because I would have thought more there again, were there any of the British guitar players that influenced you like? Because I know you're a big Uriah Heep fan, and obviously, well, they're not British, but Rush. Who in your mind would you say was the guitarist that was the biggest influence on you wanting to play guitar to begin with?
Oh, I started really young. I mean,
right.
Back then, that was like Born to Be Wild was just came out, and I heard that. I said, I gotta do this,
But no specific guitar player that you could think of that?
Not really.
No? And the Beatles weren't a big influence on you back in the day?
Not so much, no.
No?
No, a friend of mine, his older brother, we were just like little punk.
Yeah.
He hears junior high kids, right?
Yeah.
We're in 8th grade, and his older brother had long hair, and he swung his arm around like Pete Townsend and played guitar with a loud amp. We just thought, this is what we want to do,
Yeah.
So we got acoustic guitars, and we learned Kumbaya, and we played a couple of folk guitar masses,
Yeah.
Started doing that, and then I bought an electric guitar at Chucker Drugstore, $19.
Chucker Drugstore? I didn't know they sell guitars there.
Yeah, it's just a piece of junk checkmate, and I locked myself in the basement for 6 months.
Do you remember what kind of guitar it was?
It was called the Check.
So it was just a
cheap
guitar that they made. Was it made by someone else?
Yeah, got a silver tone amp.
Right.
And I made a second cabinet out of an old phonograph that I put a speaker in, so I had a stack, a silver tone stack, MP, whatever they were called, little fuzz box you plug in, jack on your guitar and plug the guitar. That's it. It has fuzzy, And
what became your most popular or favorite rig as far as guitar and an amp type setup over the years? Guitar especially.
Oddly enough, I'm not what's the word?
You're not a connoisseur of a certain brand?
I am not.
You weren't a Gibson guy, a Fender guy, or?
No, I mean my Gibson. I had a Gibson Melody Maker that I played, second guitar that I got when I first joined that band, and played that for many years through early Crime Control.
Right.
And I love that guitar, but I've always if I go to a party and there's jamming, I want to play someone else's guitar.
Right. Check it out.
Because a different instrument makes me think of new things.
Yeah.
And I've never been, I gotta have this kind of guitar and I have to have this kind of amp. I've just never been like that.
No.
I just don't care. I just think it's the song, it's what you write that matters, not what.
No, I get that. I get there.
I've never been a tone.
No, why I was asking that is like a lot of guitar players, they tend to be more comfortable playing whatever they play on certain kind of guitars, whether it's the action, the feel, the tonality of the combination between that with an amp. So you're saying that was never, even with Crime Control or the early bands, any kind of thing with you at all?
No, I just had some kind of multi-effects down box, put the Gibson Melody Maker through it, plugged it into a transistor amp, I mean.
Well, you mentioned you played bass. Do you remember what would have been the first bass, or was that other just cheap bass?
That first one, I think I just got a violin bass, just a cheap copy of that. Did that for a little while, and then I got a Fender P. That was a Fender P, and then I had an acoustic 150, which is a guitar amp. Used that at first. Then in Topaz, I got an acoustic 370, had an Ampeg SVT bottom, and I had an 18-inch JBL on the side. So play with that, and the bartender's bottles start coming off.
So what are you playing mostly now?
Oh, my guitar is a Vantage, which is what my later bass was later in Topaz. It's a company called Vantage. You probably may or might not have heard of them. They made neat stuff.
So you've never been into the big name stuff like Gibson or Fender in a big way?
I don't care. No, I mean, I like
you played them. It's just that you didn't need to have them
to
do what you want to do. Huh, that's interesting. What made you pursue wanting to start a studio, for example? What was the reason for that? I have a feeling I know, but I'd rather hear you tell me.
I actually started it with the idea of doing soundtrack for a movie soundtrack, background music. That's how I started it, and that's why it's called Incidental Sounds. It's a dumb name for what it ended up being, but incidental music is the music that's in the background of a movie.
Right, I think so.
So that was the name. So I, got my name registered. I got a sequencer, Atari ST with a sequencer software called Texas Instruments Hybrid Arts.
God, that's old school.
And I got my first job, and I did a soundtrack. It was like a 45-minute video that was training video for just-in-time delivery for truck drivers. So I made up all the music for it. I sang it, and I made up songs, lyrics,
Oh, they were singing in it too?
I did all the kinds of stuff. They didn't expect it. In fact, it was funny. The guy that hired me was Steve Monkevich, was Tom's brother, and he worked for this place. They were doing commercial, and I gave him the cassette. Back then it was a cassette.
Right.
And he gave it to the owner that was in charge of the company that made the video for commercial reasons.
Yeah.
And the owner came in and he had a fit. He said, "What is this? What is this?" Steve said, "Wait a minute, you got to see it with the video." Played it, and the guy just loved it because I had corny lyrics, and like fake banjo and
yeah.
Ain't got no place to put it. Get it there before, and if you get it there too late, they'll lock the door because it's got to be just in time. Got to be just in time. It was corny as all get up, and the guy had a fit when he first heard it in his car.
Right.
But when he saw it, finally, oh yeah, I get it.
He gets it.
That's great.
He was able to make the connection between
Then he loved it.
Did you gain
And that was the first thing I did. And I think someone that I knew wanted to make a song that was a singer-songwriter that didn't have a band. I said, all right, well, we'll try it. And they told two friends, and they told two friends, and they told two friends. And in a very short time, I had a different occupation than what I had intended to do. I ended up doing it for 45, 50 years.
Did you do any more soundtrack-type music for anybody? That was it?
That was it. The first thing I did was...
That's how it started out. That was your vision, and your vision changed.
Yeah, it just changed.
That's somehow how I could expect it to go.
Like I said, people started telling their friends, people started coming in, and before you know it, I was swamped with that. Okay, I guess this is what I'm doing.
Well, one of the bands that I know that you worked, I don't know if they came in as a band at your old location in Brightmoor, was a band called Standing Pavement, who went on later to become Tiles. I know you did some work with them there. As a matter of fact, you did a demo of them that ended up somehow getting held by Gene Simmons, who wanted to start a record label and wanted to sign them. Do you remember that and how that went down? You don't remember? They became Tiles?
Yeah.
You don't remember working with them?
I'm so bad with names.
Well, I mean, to me, it seems like something you'd remember only because of this demo and the whole thing. Because I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah.
That Gene Simmons somehow knew about these guys. So none of that, there's no light going on in your head about that at all.
No.
Because when you say most of these people that came in there were, one-on-one single, performers, and you write all the stuff, this would not have been that way. You don't remember working with them or working with too many bands like that in those days? Yeah, because Tiles, you're familiar with Tiles, right? They went on, I don't think they were signed, but they went on to work with Terry Brown from Rush and stuff, did some phenomenal stuff, but they got their start pretty much at your house in your basement, so that's and I
think I might have sold the guitar player's guitar when I worked at Anderson's. That I have a vague memory of, but I don't remember recording them.
Well, I'm not saying you recorded a whole album. I don't think it was a full album. I think it was a couple songs.
Okay, curious to hear it.
And I'll have to find that or see if I can find it because I know they were called Standing Pavement.
I remember that name.
Yeah, and then it became Tiles. Because I remember we, in a band Chain Reaction, we played a few gigs with them back in the day. They were getting a phenomenal guitar player.
Yeah.
The guitar player in the band was very much like the guy that played in Stratus. That style, that, improv type of thing, and that you could tell they had woodshedded quite a few years, Did you ever do that other than when you first started out, just hide away and play your guitar until you felt comfortable enough to come out and play? Or was that ever an issue with you?
Yeah, well, no, like I said, I locked myself in my room for 6 months when I got my first guitar, and jammed along with the radio, and then came out and started a band.
That was all acoustic, right? Or
no.
You had electric when you did that?
Yeah, no, I mean, we did some acoustic gigs before.
Right.
But when I got into electric guitar, I just locked myself away for 6 months and just tried to do something that sounded good with what was on the radio.
Just match it up as much as possible.
Yeah.
Did you have so you didn't take any kind of lessons, any guitar lessons right on your own?
No, like I say, my friend Mark, his older brother showed us the D and the G and the F.
Oh, okay. So you got the basics.
And then, here's what a bar chord is. Okay, so I had one bar chord. That's all you need. There's actually two.
Yeah, that's all you need is a lot of those songs.
And you just play it in a different spot. It's a different,
Yeah, that's true. Now, as far as this studio here, or it wouldn't have been at the other studio, I'm sure. Did you ever do anything as far as video production? These artists come in here and you set up like a green screen?
No.
So pretty much everything you did here was just straight audio. Now, did any of these artists take it?
Well, I think some people wanted we just shot them in the studio and sync the.
That's what I'm saying. Something like that.
A couple things like that, just quick little,
You didn't have any of them running around your patio and somebody videotaping them in the back porch area.
Might have done one or two. I think we did a couple like that, yeah.
Now, did you ever do anything like that, somewhere with any of the bands? Like, especially, because I would have thought this would have been so killer with Crime Control, especially three gals dressed up the way they had. Did you ever do any kind of video like that, or just something somebody was
people
shot?
have videos that they shot at concerts that we played at.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like camcorder kind of stuff?
Yeah, and we had a couple people that were actually fairly good videographers. Danny Boyd, he's been working for years as videographer over at Madonna College. And he'd come out and shoot us sometimes. He was a great bass player too, but he was early on got into video, and then so did our sound man from Topaz, Joe Bungard. In fact, we made some videos like MTV style.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. We did about 4 Topaz songs with video like that.
Oh, they did. Okay, you did with that band. Now that was
the original version.
So those weren't straight out live performances that he just cut 5
No,
cameras?
we took our studio version.
Right.
And actually, the studio, I should say, we recorded in the basement on a 4-track cassette.
Right.
At Joe Bungard's mom's house.
Mm-hmm.
And we made this cassette, which I later learned to see. But but then we did some videos where we basically set up a stage. I had an office, had a computer company with me and Rick Street, Rick Sputansky, the guy from Prison Facility. We had a company where we wrote songs. So we had an office over on Warren and Greenfield. So we cleared out a room and set up the band made a stage there and set up the band. Joe did the video of that. We did a couple of songs, and there's a scene where someone's sitting at the desk in the office. There's a couple.
Right.
Couple of scenes thrown in with band performing like MTV style,
But was that like all lip sync then?
Yeah.
Okay, so none of it was live as far as that.
Right.
Do you still have any of that?
Somewhere.
I'd
say, the other people in the band are more likely to have this stuff than I am. I'm just not very. I just don't care.
So it just doesn't interest you? Are you, I take it, not so much interested in the past as you are as the future, as far as your music?
Yeah.
That makes sense. You've always been...
I like playing in the moment.
Playing in the moment and what's next type of thing. And what is next? Have you got anything? And like you mentioned earlier, Crime Control put out their latest album. It took you about 5 years to do it. Do you see anything as far as continuing with that?
Sure. Crime Control, we get together every week, and write songs. We're a songwriting club, basically.
Right.
And maybe once or twice a year we'll go out and do a party or a gig or something.
Right.
If someone else is playing a gig, we'll go sit in with them and do it, So we don't get out much, but we do love to write songs, and then when we get enough, we'll record an album,
So it's just an ongoing thing. Because you had mentioned 50th anniversary, Crime Control, which is when again? Is that this September?
No, this September is my high school 50th anniversary graduation.
Oh!
Crime Control's about 45 now, I think.
I was going to say, because when you mentioned it's starting in around 82, 83 or 84, that's almost like you say 50 years. Pretty darn close. And to have kept it together that long, in whatever fashion, because all bands, pretty much from that time, member changes and things that happen. The thing about you guys that I recall and remember listening to on Spotify and the recordings, you always had that same type of humor, that same type of writing style. You didn't try and go off in a totally different direction. Now, was that because that's how you felt comfortable with that, as far as the band or yourself, or you just like that style of music, that writing style?
Yeah, I don't know. It just came out that way.
None of it was preconceived?
Because the way the band writes, everything's different. Sometimes someone will bring in a lyric, or sometimes we'll just start messing around and all of a sudden something starts to happen. And, what should we call this? Someone will come up with a name. Oh, okay. Well, what should the chorus do? We'll write as a group a lot of times.
Right.
But sometimes someone will write a little something and bring it in.
Sure.
And it'll be really a rough sketch. Like last week, Rob brought some lyrics in. A couple weeks ago, the drummer brought some lyrics in. And then, Randy and I made up music for it. And before you know it, we had the whole song. We recorded it, just a live version, basement live version. So we wouldn't remember it the next week because otherwise we'd forget it.
Yeah, well, that's very helpful. So is Crime Control now basically a three-piece band?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought to add keyboards? I mean, you had a lot of keyboards in the early stuff for years. Have you ever thought to add a keyboard player, or just it's easier this way?
Not really. Haven't thought about it.
No.
I mean, if we ran across someone that felt like they wanted to maybe be in the band, we might do it. We're not looking for someone.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So that's not a necessity as far as
the
type of songs you're writing and all
that.
Just
having fun as a three-piece power trio.
Now, are the other two members, do they play in other groups? Are they playing out with anybody else? Or?
I don't think so.
No? Neither of them?
No. Rob sits in with people once in a while, the drummer and some other people, but I don't think he's actually in any other groups.
I thought it was the bass player that you'd mentioned that might be playing.
I was in a cover band up until very recently for about 12, 13 years called the Carpet Bombers. Randy was actually in it for about 6 months. About 2 years ago, he joined and then he didn't want to do it.
Oh, okay.
But he was in it for about 6 months.
That might have been what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It was always a major pleasure playing with you guys. I remember we did several gigs with you guys, but we did one at Reruns, or we were recording it. I wish to God we still had it somewhere, because you're on it.
Rob might have it.
Because you guys were on it. We recorded you guys too. It was on reel to reel. We had bought the big things in there, and we were pretty much done with our set. We were going to go into our last little number, which was always Johnny Be Good. And you came up to the stage and said, play 2 more songs. And Johnny's like going, wow, cool. They want us to play 2 more. You know, but what I mean by that, it was so, you guys were always so cool to work with. So much fun. Your parties were great. I remember coming out to see you guys play, you know, at different bars. Walsh's on the Border was another one I wanted to come out to play. And I remember I would dance with all the other band members' wives when you guys were on stage, which is always a kick, because I was like the only guy that would actually get out there on a dance floor and dance. Not that I'd call it dancing, but it was so much fun because your stuff lent itself to it. Like I said, you guys were like, to me, the alternative, or alternative is not the right word, the rock version of like the B-52s. You had that kind of comic kind of thing and the tongue-in-cheek stuff, but with more of a rock edge to it. But anybody and everybody that I had ever talked to that's seen you guys always loved it, always had a good time, whether you were playing in some basement party or wherever. And I know there were several of those that were like bombast Halloween parties or whatever. They were always a good time. It was, like I say, a pleasure playing with you guys. Well, anyway, Ray, I'm going to wrap it up here saying that I really appreciate you taking the time. You know, I'm glad we were finally able to sit down and do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sorry your memory and some of this stuff wasn't as good. I would have been the computer guy.
What's Walsh's on the Border? I don't even know what that is.
I used to be the Student Body Lounge over by Henry Ford Community College.
Okay.
But you guys played there with Numbers quite a few times. Okay. I think we even played there with you a few times because we lived down the street. Remember we used to live on Granville there in Warrendale?
Yeah.
It's right at the end of the street. It was right there. I mean, I know we played more with you at like Reruns and some of the other places, and whenever you had a party, we'd always come over there and jam. But anyway, Ray, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Reasonably good health other than your memory.
Yeah.
And believe me, I know what that's like, so I'm not putting you down for it.
Well, that's nothing new. I've never been able to remember this.
Yeah.
Names and faces are just out of my reach.
Okay, I just want to end this with one thing, and it's a number. 42, Butter.
Oh, yeah.
This is the man that told me all about 42, and I've never forgotten it.
Answer.
It is the answer.
Universe and everything.
Anyway, this is Jimmy Jive, and you've been listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today, my guest has been Ray Kozora, played the infamously awesome band from the late 80s into the 90s and beyond, Crime Control. He also played in Topaz and several other bands.
Hey, if you're digging this show, and I hope you are, because I've got a lot more great episodes down the pipe, you know, maybe do me a favor and hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. It doesn't cost anything. It just shows me that there's interest in the show, and I like to hear from you. Hey, are you into vinyl records? Well, I am, and I want to tell you about a vinyl record store called Vinyl People Records. They're in Westland at 34785 Ford Road. The owner, Donovan, is very knowledgeable and has an excellent selection of new and used vinyl. Also order stuff for you that you may think is not even available anymore. Their hours are 11 to 7, Monday through Friday, 11 to 5 on Saturday, and 1 to 5 on Sunday. Their phone number is 734-329-2746. Tell them Jimmy Jive sent you. Anyway, as I like to say, keep rocking.